quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
If you don't know who this guy is, I'm going to share a little bit of wealth of information. In the studio with us today, Marc Jordan. 15 solo albums spanning over 40 years, multi-platinum award-winning songs. From the Southern California sounds of the 70s to the pop of the 80s, Americana roots of the 90s to the jazz sounds today. Songs have been covered by some of the biggest names in music, released on over 35 albums, including Jim Brickman, Cher, Chicago, Joe Cocker, Natalie Cole, Josh Groban, David Hasselhoff, Jeff Healey, Don Johnson, Kansas, Kenny Loggins, The Manhattan Transfer, Olivia Newton-John, Bonnie Raitt, Diana Ross, Sawyer Brown, Rod Stewart, Tiffany, and Kim Carnes, just to name a few. Marc Jordan, welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here. What a place.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. Glad you can make it here on Super Bowl Sunday. As we discussed before the show, we're more hockey fans than we are football fans, so we're going to be okay there. You were born in Brooklyn, but you were raised in Canada.
Yes.
Your dad, as we talked about, Charles Jordan, he was a big band singer.
Yeah.
And along with being a vocal teacher, I noticed that some of his students included Lauren Green from Bonanza,
Yes.
along with William Shatner. My wife and I are having this conversation. She goes, I didn't know what William Shatner sang.
He doesn't.
No, he... Was your dad an influence for you to get started?
He was, because he didn't really talk to me about music a lot, but I learned by example. And I learned he was classically trained, but unlike a lot of classical people, he had very broad tastes. In fact, the music he really loved, I think the most maybe, was maritime folk music.
Maritime folk music.
So that really helped me when I was writing for Rod Stewart, because his stuff is very of that ilk when you strip it back.
Yeah.
And Rhythm of My Heart, which was a big song, is really a folk song at its core. I mean, it was amazing that I knew that, because I knew that idiom because my dad played it all the time around the house when I was growing up.
And then, of course, you said later on in life, your dad also became a cantor within the synagogue.
Yeah.
You studied film at Brock University in St. Catharines, Ontario.
Yes.
Was that your original passion, was to be a filmmaker, or what was the focus there?
Well, I'm dyslexic, and I struggle with the written word. I also struggled learning to read music. So I studied music at the conservatory in Toronto. It was a trick. I had to trick my teacher. And what it taught me was to have... my thing was I would get my teacher to play the piece I had to learn for next week, the last thing in the lesson. And I'd beat it home as fast as I could, and I'd try to remember it. And I developed a really good ear for music. That was pre-Bob Dylan. And when I heard Bob Dylan, I realized, oh, he's just making it up too. I can do that. And I probably, what was a deficit, being dyslexic, turned out to be a very positive thing in my life.
You went on to play guitar for Bobby Vee for a while.
Wow.
60s pop star.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember who he is, definitely, music. And then you released some singles.
Yes.
First through CBS Records, you had It's a Fine Line, New York Kids, and Original Sin.
You've done your homework.
I have done I try to do my homework. And then you went to Warner Brother Records and then RCA.
Yeah.
Your time during that era of releasing songs, was that something you had planned on? Were you working towards it? It just kind of fallen into place? How did it transition from being the guitarist for Bobby Vee to all of a sudden you're writing hit songs?
Well, the reason I was playing for Bobby was that I was in a cover band when I quit university, when I quit my film thing, I went back to Toronto and I got in this cover band. And that was a really good thing to learn to play hit songs that other people had written. And we were a pretty good band. So when Bobby Vee was looking, he would come to Toronto and they would put us together and then we'd play his stuff. And he was an interesting guy in that he had written a whole body of work that he had tried to play in his concerts, but his fans didn't want to hear it.
Oh.
And he was a frustrated guy. He was actually a good writer. Bob Dylan was in his band for a while.
Bob Dylan was in Bobby Vee's band.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, back in Fargo or wherever they started, you know. He had a lot of stories, and I learned a lot from him. Then I was, playing other people's songs, and I thought, I heard Bob Dylan. I thought, I have to do this. So I went back to Toronto, and I picked up an acoustic guitar, and I did it. I got these little deals in Canada, but Canada is a tiny market. So I'll tell you a big turning point for me was when I heard Poetry Man.
Of Phoebe Snow.
Phoebe Snow.
Oh, my gosh. What a great... Oh, yeah.
Well, I put that record on. Who was the producer? It was so good. Phil Ramone. When he was an engineer, he wasn't even really a producer yet. He did that record. I put it on. The next day, I borrowed my friend's car, and I drove to New York with a cassette. Because I saw on the credits, it was recorded at A&R Studios in Manhattan.
Right.
Knocked on the door with what an idiot I was. I knocked on the door with my cassette. The guy answered, and I said, "Can I speak to Phil Ramone?" He says, "I'm Phil Ramone."
Wow.
I said, "Will you listen to my cassette?" He said, "Sure, I will." And he was a lovely man, and I spent the afternoon with him.
Oh,
And,
my gosh.
Yeah, it was really something. And we connected later on in life. And
Do you know how many people couldn't have gotten away with that? I'm not going to say idiot. Naivete was probably what a fortunate opportunities for you. Yeah.
He was something. He was a lovely man and just told me about the business.
Yeah.
After that, I knew I had to go to America.
You went on to co-write songs, especially one for Boulevard of Broken Dreams, which was a hit movie in Australia, which I think, if I remember right, won an AFI award for Best Film. And then you were appointed as the musical director for the Slate family music? Yeah,
it's Norman Jewison, the great film director, is Canadian. When he sort of wound up his career in Hollywood, he started splitting his time between L.A. and Toronto, and he opened a film center. It was about mostly teaching people to write screenplays, and they decided to have a film, like a film music component. So they asked me if I would chair that, and it's kind of like writing for film is different than just writing.
And you're talking about scores, writing scores or music-based soundtracks?
Not the scores. It's mostly songs.
Okay.
And how songs work in film, because it's very different when you hear a song in a film than when you hear it just on the radio.
Because it also becomes a visual perspective in addition to something that's sonic. And so you want to write that song or create that song that fits that moment, whether it's 15 seconds or it's a couple minutes.
Yes.
And you can make such a bold statement doing that.
Yes.
Was that something that just came to you naturally?
No, it was a learning curve for me too.
Yeah.
But what I learned when I was with Warner Chappell in the early 80s, they would take the writers, there was about 15 of us signed, and every month we would go and watch a screening at a theater with the director who was looking for songs. So I would either go home and write a song for the scene he was looking for, or if I had a song, I would send that over. And I never, ever, ever got a placement. Lots of songs I just written over the years got into film. But when I was writing for the film, it never worked. So I had to figure out why.
Yeah. And you did.
I think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about, you have a new project that just came out that your publicist sent us called Both Sides.
Yeah.
That's got some great music. But before we do that, I'm going to talk a bit about a couple other things. In the studio with us today, Marc Jordan.
Hey, this is Jerry Salley, and you're listening to my buddy Bob Bender on the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
Spire Boot Camps is happening at iconic OmniSound Studios in Nashville on March 20th through 22nd. This is a 3-day intensive boot camp for music artists who will receive training from renowned experts such as legendary drummer-speaker Sandy Gennaro, songwriter Benita Hill, vocal coach Robin Earl, producer-songwriter Gary Earl, and business life coach Anita Hodges. Topics will include navigating the music business, songwriting, vocal coaching, producing, music syncs, and more. Go to www.spirebootcamps.com. That's spirebootcamps.com.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Holly came from Miami, FLA. Hitchhiked away across the USA. Plucked her eyebrows on the way, shaved her legs, and he was a she. She said, hey baby, take a walk on the wild side. Take a walk on the wild side. Hey honey, take a walk on the wild side. Take a walk on the wild side.
You made your acting debut in 2010 in a sports musical called Score, a hockey musical, where you played Edgar Gordon. You were alongside Olivia Newton-John on that one.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I got a call to come down.
I got a call from a guy who knew a guy.
Yeah, no, it was somebody that was working for the director. This is in Toronto. And I thought naturally it was to do the music for the film. So I went down expecting to have a meeting. I went in and they said, I have these weird glasses. I'm not wearing them now, but these weird, like sort of nerd glasses. Mm-hmm. I was wearing them and the director said, you look nuts in those glasses. I said, well, thank you. He said, the character in this, the father in this is a nutty professor. He says, you look just like him in my head. I said, great. He said, why do you audition in the next room? I said, all right. And I got it. I can't believe, I don't know how.
You had no intention of going in there for
I
this.
thought I was doing I thought they wanted me from the music. I'm not an actor.
Was it fun?
It was so fun. And then the next day, the woman who was supposed to be my wife had to drop out for I can't remember the reason. So they were scrambling. And I know Olivia forever. I said, well, Olivia's going to be up in Canada for a bit. Maybe I'll call her and see if she'll just do this. It was a short shoot. And
yeah,
she said, yes.
Wow.
She's the best.
You've written a lot of great songs, but when we jump to this new album of yours, Both Sides, as I said before the show, to me, this is just an ultimate body of musical work here. The songs you picked, just standards. Mm-hmm. You had the Hoagie Carmichael song, Nearness to You, Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now, which is, she's one of my favorite songwriters. And then you had some kind of eclectic things on here. Lou Reed's Walking the Wild Side.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, 1972. One of my favorite songs. Definitely not politically correct, but what a great song. And then Wild Horses. Who would have thunk? Mick Jagger and Keith Richards.
Yeah.
And you turned it into this very lush, kind of a Nelson Riddle, Henry Mancini soundtrack.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration, first of all, to do this album as you did, and then choose these songs?
I'd always wanted to sing with an orchestra. I've done it once live, and I always wanted to do it again. But the songs, a lot of the songs I write, some of them lend themselves to orchestration, most of them don't. But my God, there's such great songs out there, and I love singing them. I like taking someone else's song and making it my own as well. So there's that. And then I was listening to Jazz FM in Toronto one morning, and I heard an arrangement. I don't remember the song, but it was an amazing arrangement, a string arrangement. And I thought, is that Nelson Riddle or who is that? And I called them. They said, no, it's a guy named Lou Piemonte, who is a Toronto guy, has done a lot of work with Bublé, and he's a Toronto arranger. And I actually knew him from years ago. And I called him up and I said, I just love the arrangement you did on this song, and it gives me an idea. I went over to his house and we played a bunch of songs. You know, it's a bunch of my songs, a bunch of wonderful cover songs. And, you know, as the years go by, what is American Songbook is expanding in a way.
It is, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's more to add to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, there's a century of music now. So we just played about 50 songs, and he sat at the piano and I sang, and I just, the ones that lent themselves to my voice, I said, let's do this. And he was so open and wonderful about it. And then, you know, that Lou Reed song, I've always loved that. I mean, what a...
Well, when you go back to the original recording when Lou did it, I mean, it's just a simple upright bass and, you know, or two upright basses, okay, and the background singers and a saxophone and not much else. I mean, it was really just stripped to the bare bones.
Yeah. You know the story of why there are two basses?
No.
He wanted a double. He wanted a double session.
Double session.
So you had to do two different instruments. So he did upright and electric.
And electric, okay.
And that's how he got himself a double session. It wasn't planned that way.
Yeah.
But he played along with himself, and it was the hook of the song, really.
Oh, it really was.
And historically, it's the connector between beat poetry and hip hop, is it not?
Yeah.
It's an important song. You know, I got a little bit of flack for some of the lyrics in there, but
yeah, absolutely, because it's just the song stands on its own.
You can't go erasing history.
No, thank you very much. Both sides now, as I said earlier, big Joni Mitchell fan, you know, Coyote, Woodstock, the songs that, you know, she sang and performed. Why this particular song, Both Sides Now?
She was around Toronto in the early years. You could hear Joni Mitchell for $1 in the Village in Toronto at the Riverboat, which I used to do a lot. And I heard her sing this song when she was, I don't know how old she was, maybe 20. And I liked it.
Yeah.
But then she did a version with the London Symphony when she was in her 70s. And I realized what a brilliant song it was, because the song, her voice was so worldly and rich and older and wiser. And the song made it. It made the song bigger, but the song made her voice bigger. And I thought, I think it's one of the most brilliant songs of the 20th century. I
remember first time I heard it wasn't actually Joni Mitchell, it was Neil Diamond on one of his albums.
Oh,
and I thought, just, man, wow, he wrote this. And then I looked at the liner credits and saw it was Joni Mitchell. Yeah, I mean, her writing is so in-depth. If you're an aspiring songwriter, aspiring artist, she's one of those singer-songwriters I would recommend that you listen to.
Yes.
Because you can learn a lot.
Yeah.
You can at least learn a thing or two from her writing.
She's a genius and harmonically off the charts.
What are you doing for the rest of your life? I remember, you know, Michel Legrand, but it was Diana Krall who did it when I first heard that song. Yeah. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, what a beautiful song off of a beautiful album that she did. The orchestration that you have on yours, to me, it sets the bar so high. Who did the orchestration on it?
It was Lou.
It was Lou.
Lou Pamonte,
Yeah.
in Toronto.
He wrote all the arrangements.
He wrote all the string arrangements, and we did it with the Prague Symphony.
How many pieces?
That's I'm not sure. Probably about over 60.
Yeah. Were you in the studio when those were
Well,
laid?
no, we just tie line them in, and so you get it a millisecond or two later. They're playing in Prague,
Yeah.
and I was in Lou's studio in Toronto.
How was that experience?
It was great.
Yeah.
We cut piano, bass, and drums in Toronto. Sent that over with the orchestrations and click tracks and stuff in real time. You can talk to the conductor, and it's amazing. And it was an eye opener for me. It was wonderful.
In the studio with us, Marc Jordan. Got a lot of great things to talk about here.
This is Garrett Chapman, and you're listening to the Business Side of Music podcast.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Wow, I just joined the Music Starts Here community. This is a truly hidden gem for anyone in the music business. Whether you live in Nashville or anywhere else in the world, Music Starts Here is like a GPS for your music career. This is the place to be if you want to get advice and direction from some seriously talented musical people who have been where you want to go. Music news, events, and a great big community with resources for artists, songwriters, musicians, studio and tech, along with music business advice from pros in the industry, all on one site? Make sure you get your free profile now. Go to www.musicstartshere.org. That's musicstartshere.org.
You're listening to the business side of music.
What are you doing the rest of your life? North and south and east and west of your life. I have only one request of your life, that you spend it all with me. All the seasons and the times of your days, all the nickels and the dimes of your days. Let the reasons and the rhymes of your days all begin and end with me. I want to see your face in every kind of light, in the fields of dawn and the forests of the night. And when you stand
15 solo albums spanning over 40 years, as we said earlier. Is there one album, in addition to both sides, is there one that stands out more than another for you?
I've always loved This Is How Men Cry.
It's mentioned a lot in your bio when you read about that. Why is that?
Well, I think I just started a family, and it was an emotional time for me. And I've been a guy, like many guys, who bottles up their emotions. Having a family kind of unlocked the box a little bit, the love box, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm aware that men don't really, when guys get together, they're not talking about their feelings.
No, it's all guy stuff. It's testosterone.
Yeah.
How about the Yankees?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But we do have feelings.
Yeah. Well, as my wife will tell you, I cry when I watch a good commercial. So,
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. So,
and that's not anything to be ashamed of, because
No.
I think that shows an emotion that is true and genuine, that should be out there, because I think that also helps from the creative standpoint.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My dad used to say, he said, if you want to, I said he didn't tell me a lot, but he did tell me this. If you want to learn how to sing a lyric, listen to the women how women sing lyrics. He said they connect to words in a much more emotional way than men do. And I think he was right.
Wow. That's
He
pretty
said, listen
profound.
to Ella, listen to Billie Holiday, listen to Nina Simone.
When you talk about Billie Holiday, you said you listened to her as much as you did the Beatles when we were talking before the show. Was she one that stood out, or who was the one artist or a couple artists that really influenced you musically?
Well, I think Billie Holiday for sure. Bill Evans, because of his lyrical, just because of that way he played chords. You know, when I audition a piano player, ever since, like I watched the way Bill Evans, on the old films of him,
right?
And you notice he didn't play like Oscar Peterson, hands wide apart. He played like very clustery. I've always loved that sound because it's so densely harmonic, and it's so interesting to sing over because there's all kinds of minefields. You can't go there, you can't go there, you can't go there. You really got to figure it out, and I love to do that.
I love how you said there's a lot of minefields, but it's a lot of ways to expand kind of your musical universe, because here's the basic foundation within a couple, maybe 3 octaves.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's up to you.
That's right.
All the artists that you work with, I mean, the list I read was just a portion of that. And you mentioned Olivia Newton-John was great to work with. Others that, I mean, Rod Stewart, the Charlie Parker Loves Me off of his 2001 Human album. Was there somebody that you liked to write for, or did you just write and they would find your music, or?
Yes, because I and Warner Chappell, the guys at Warner Chappell were smart enough to figure this out with me. Because I started off as a recording artist, I never really thought about writing for other people.
You were writing for yourself initially,
Yes.
right? Yeah, okay.
And I always wrote for myself, even when people would discover the music. The only way I could make it true, make it sound, make it from the heart, from my heart anyway, was if I wrote it from the point of view that I was going to record it.
Your perspective.
There are lots of guys that were signed to Warner, and the guy that would say, Madonna's looking for a song, and they go, oh, Madonna, okay. They could figure that out, and they could write a Madonna song. I could never do that, and they knew I couldn't do it. So they just said, just write songs, and then we'll cast them to artists that are looking. And it worked out.
Was there anyone that stood out more than the other of all the artists? I mean, did somebody take your song and translate it in a way that you just went, yeah, they got it right?
Well, Rod always did, because I know, and I never asked him this, but I would bet my life on it that he listened to a lot of Sam Cooke growing up. And I listened to a lot of Sam Cooke growing up. And often when I write, I hear Sam Cooke singing it in my head. So I think that's why Rod ended up doing 4 or 5 of my songs, because we have that connection. And you write, and your melodic thing goes to where Sam Cooke might have gone,
Yeah.
Sam Cooke was an amazing singer.
You co-write very much?
Yeah.
Is there anyone in particular, or are you open to new opportunities? Or
Absolutely.
Do you write with your wife?
I do now.
We haven't talked about her, but
Amy Skye, she's a brilliant writer. She doesn't need me to help her write. I would hit a sort of roadblock, and I'd run stuff past her, and she would kind of bail me out. She'd go, oh, why don't you try this? And even if I didn't go with her suggestion, it would trigger something.
Right.
Actually, Josh Groban, when I wrote a song with Stefan Macchio called Tears of Hercules, and David Foster called me up. He said, I'm producing Josh Groban. He wants to do this song, Tears of Hercules. I said, great. So he put Josh on the phone, and Josh said, I love this song. He says, you got to make one change for me. And, I'm a songwriter, so
sure,
okay.
yeah, that happens.
And he said, you got to get rid of Tears of Hercules.
Say what?
Yeah. I said, Josh, old buddy, you are absolutely right. What was I thinking? I got to get rid of that. That's ridiculous. It was the whole song, basically.
Yeah.
What I wrote it about. So I couldn't figure out what to call it after that. And my wife came up with a great suggestion. She said, call it My Heart Was Home Again. And it worked great. And Josh liked it. And so he recorded it under My Heart Was Home Again.
Wow.
And I've done it, Tears of Hercules.
Yeah. Same song.
Same song.
What's next for you?
My wife and I are going to do a duet record. So when you say do you write with your wife a lot, we're going to do some covers, but we're writing some songs as well. We're going to do some of them down here, some of them all over the place.
Do you enjoy writing and recording your own songs in relation to, we talked about the covers on this album, this last album that you just did? When you do both sides, obviously you're picking songs that other people have done.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them may be lesser known. Some of them, that, like I said, Walk on the Wild Side or Wild Horses, the Rolling Stones song. Do you have a preference? Do you like doing your own songs in the studio? Or do you like doing the cover tunes more? Or is it kind of 50-50? Or?
Well, I choose them. The songs of other people that I record, I have to love them.
Yeah. It's a musical journey.
Yeah. And it's a bit different because there are so many already interpretations of those songs out there. But I just do my thing. I just do what I do.
I like what you said there, that there are so many interpretations. And once again, I'm going to jump back and Walk on the Wild Side. That's one that's not easily tamed.
No.
When Lou redid it, I know there's been some other renditions of it, but the spin you put on it with, on the Both Sides album, that wasn't a safe bet, I can tell you.
I tried to make it into a movie.
Oh, okay.
I tried to make it visual.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put inside your head.
Yeah, but I tried to make it, I put some soundscape in there and some interesting just sounds of New York. And
when you write, do you have a certain place you go to get away, or is it the couch in the living room, or where do you find that happy spot to be creative?
I have a studio at home. It's a room in the house. I put my headphones on and I'm in heaven still all these years. And I often go to my studio before I go down for breakfast in the morning.
Wow.
Music has been the blessing in my life. The blessing in my life.
You get to live something that not a lot of other people get to do. And that's create music, not only for yourself, but for other people. Yeah, it's amazing.
And then I can go and sing it to them.
Yeah.
Which is also, that's been a journey too, because I used to not enjoy playing live.
Really?
No. Because, when I go to a concert, because I'm in the business, when I go to a concert, I'm always thinking.
Yeah.
Now, what would I do differently there? What
right.
The bass player the bass doesn't sound right, or this or that. I'm always thinking about it. I always thought that I was up there being judged in a way. And then I realized that was a very egotistical position to take. And when I took myself out of the equation, I realized that audiences go to love music. They go to be moved. They go to hear something that maybe they haven't heard before. And they go to have their soul touched. That's the blessing of it all. I mean, it's such a two-way. When you take your own ego out of it, you get to sing to people, and you get so much back.
When you're on stage performing, do you stick to the script per song, or do you stretch out musically when you're on stage live?
Well, we have basic, arrangements.
Yeah.
But I always, melodically, I always go to
add
different
a little more flavor to it than, yeah. It's very
keeps
cool.
it interesting for me, and I've just always done that, and they hated it when I was doing pop music, but the stuff I'm doing now, it's good. Works.
People can find you at your website and your music?
Yeah.
Which is?
Well, it's marcjordan.com, marc@marcjordan.com.
And they can order your music through there?
Yeah, or Spotify, and they can listen to Spotify, I guess, and all those.
Thank you so much for being on today. This was a pleasure.
Thank you for asking me.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
Rolls and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way. Oh, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things that I would have done, but clouds got in the way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds, illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing where you feel, oh, as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave them laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds looked at life that way. But now old friends, they're acting strange. They shake their heads and they say I've changed. Something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life. I really don't know life. I really don't know life at all.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.